Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our first impressions of the new albums from No Raza, the Callous Daoboys, and Bury Tomorrow. So we got 3 albums to talk about today, and I'm going to open the floor with Tyrona by No Raza. This is a band that we decided to take a chance on, essentially. We had the 2 already, and we're like, yo, let's pick a third one. We skimmed through some stuff, and we decided this band. And so this is the kind of thing where it's like, I don't have any expectations. Okay, let's see what we got. So this is a modern death metal band. They used to be based out of Colombia. Now they're more based out of Florida.
They've been around since '97, by the way. So they're modern, but they've been around a while.
Yeah, like the sound, at least especially of this record, is modern, but like, you know, they're not.
They're a bit old school. Yeah, they're not new. They're old school, but yeah.
So early on, I'm noticing I really like the mix of this album. Because I find a lot of, I'm not even going to say just death metal, a lot of metal in general has a problem with bass. Because it is one of the cornerstones of so much of the concepts of music. But in metal, the guitars are always tuned low and they always have distortion, so it's hard to pick it out, but it's easy to notice when it's gone.
Yeah.
However, this album, I can actually clearly discern the bass, and it stands out, even though it is still the death metal sound of, you know, down-tuned, chuggy, distorted guitar sound, and I love that. The fact that I can pick that out, they did a great job mixing this record, and I love that. So that's awesome. I like how the guitar work is phenomenal in this record. The solo eluder starting partway through the riff before the actual bridge begins is kind of cool. Like, he starts early, but I like that. It's like, whoa, what the heck? He's going already? That's super duper cool. And then that develops, so you get, you know, something like the harmonic section near the end of Imperial Holocaust. I thought that was pretty neat. It was kind of weird that the song kind of like ends, so it's like, oh, it's like, man, this part's cool, so let's just kind of put it at the end. But I think it's fine. The vocals, they're pretty consistent, but I like them. They're this like pretty consistent low growl. It's kind of like an Amon Amarth thing, where it's like you get, like that's what you get, but it's a good thing and you like it.
Yeah,
you know?
It doesn't start to sound old or stale after a while.
Yeah, it didn't really stale, and I feel like for me, usually when vocals stale out, they'll happen early on. Like, it doesn't take long for, if the vocals are too consistent, it doesn't take long to really feel that way.
Yeah.
So based on my first listen, I'm like, yeah, this feels good for what it's doing. And I think it also especially works considering the way the rest of the album goes. So that's super duper cool. I think a song like Savage Strength is a little bit more melodic guitar-wise, which is also smart to have as your track number 4. That was super duper cool. And then there's a song in the middle of the album called Estable Corruption. There's something that happens in this bridge, and I know you didn't pick it up because this is not something that, or at least I'd be surprised if you knew this. They pull out Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, okay, how do they do that?
So literally the guitar part in the bridge when the bridge starts is the melody in the theme for Luigi's Mansion.
Wow.
Straight up. If you A and B on them, you will hear it. So when I heard that for the first time, it blew my mind like, what the fuck? It's Luigi's Mansion.
That's a nice little Easter egg to just have in the middle of a death metal album.
Exactly!
Wow.
It's the first album I put on this morning, so I'm like, what the fuck is that doing there?
So where is it in the song? Is it the bridge, you said?
At the bridge. And
like kind of where the solo is?
Yeah, right before the solo starts, they have this Luigi's Mansion thing, and then that keeps going as the solo starts. It's in the middle of the song. I love it. It's super duper cool. Don't even know if that was intentional, but it sounds just like it. Like, it's straight up Luigi's Mansion. Like, I showed some friends. I'm like, dude, check it out. They're like, what? Like, they can hear it too.
Wow.
So that is another testament as to how awesome the guitar playing is on this record. The fact that you had all this creative stuff already, all this melodic cool stuff already on this death metal album, and then you start throwing Luigi's Mansion in there.
Yeah.
That's super duper sick. And then it keeps going. Like, the melodic intro of Outbreak, I thought that was super duper cool, and that's the chorus that they established there with the intro. I thought that was cool. So, you know, it's cool that this album doesn't sound like just a wall of noise death metal album. It feels like they're very articulate with how they constructed their parts. One of my favorite tracks just from my first listen was Ring of Gold, which is like the ballad near the end of the record. But it's like this super death metal power ballad. I don't know how to describe it, but I liked what I heard, and it's a testament to how carefully it feels like they crafted the experience of this album. It's good. It's a good record.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that most of the people watching this have no idea who No Raza is, and we didn't either, so we don't blame you. But I'm gonna say check it out, because when I listened to this album for my first time, I was kind of floored with the amount of range that there is here as far as the kind of diversity in its sound. Because you have a lot of stuff in here that just sounds like, just that typical classic but modernized death metal vibe, but just done and performed very well. The licks are great, the riffs are great, the vocalist has a nice growl, as TV Fish said. But you also have other things. So you got some melodic stuff in there. You got different types of beats, skank beats, D beats, all kinds of cool things happening. Obviously, you got double bass thrown out in there. Blast beats are happening. You have a couple songs that are kind of like almost ballady, but still death metal. Like you said, power ballad. I would agree with that. But it's like it's a little less aggressive, a little less brutal, but it still has that impact. It still has that punch.
And they sing a lot more with the guitar melodies as well. Like there's no clean vocal, but your clean vocal is the way the guitar is basically singing to you, which I think is awesome.
Exactly, and it adds melody to it. And yeah, the solos in and of themselves are pretty rad as well.
Oh.
They can be a little bit noodly, which is something that I've kind of grown out of liking, but they're not all like that, and they have style, they have structure, and they have, just those pick-me elements that I tend to like for solos. So there's a lot of stuff going there. Grooves are good. Just basically whatever good thing you could say about a death metal album, this has it in there, and it's sprinkled through its 44-minute runtime and done very well. The performances across the board are good. You mentioned the bass performance sounds great. All the band members sound really good. I was impressed. It's been a while since I've checked out a new death metal band and been as impressed as I was with this one today. Most of the time I'm like, yeah, it's good, but it just sounds like another death metal album.
Yeah.
This, I feel, goes slightly above and beyond your standard basic album. I feel like there's just a little more range, a little bit more diversity in sound, a little bit more creativity, and just good stuff. Tyrona is the album name. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so moving on is the album by Bury Tomorrow titled Will You Haunt Me With That Same Patience. This is a band that I never really delved into, or at least not to my memory. I heard the name many times. However, when I was looking into it, it looks like I did listen to their last record from 2023, The Seventh Son, because I had it saved. The album art was familiar. I remember liking that album art a lot. And I did listen to it because I did have it on my list in terms of re-listens in 2023. Mm-hmm. And because I'm a crazy person, I decided to make a top 100 of that year, but that album didn't even make the top 100. It would have been like 107, so it was close.
Okay.
But so it's like, okay, I guess I didn't like it that much, but I feel like a new blank slate because I don't even remember listening to it. So, okay.
Yeah, well, out of 100 plus albums, it's hard to remember something like that.
That's also true. So going into it, it's the melodic metalcore vibe. Okay, I've heard this plenty at times, so we'll see how these guys like to do it. Mm-hmm. I was really liking the main guitar riff in the first track, wanted more of that. Wasteland was pretty cool. The vocals totally wilding out. And I was kind of surprised that wasn't a single. But then as the album went on, I was starting to get concerned. And it felt like this band, and I guess bands like this, keep writing the same song over and over. Mm. And it's a good song. They get real juicy, but it's always like this rad hard or syncopated groove. You got some screaming either to open it or in the breakdown at the end, and you got the same melodic verse or chorus. Like, it just feels like the same thing over and over. So it's good.
Cookie cutter.
It's cookie cutter, but it's like when you make that kind of song, you want to consider what is the overarching experience of this album. Because if you keep making songs like that over and over, what is this album experience? You're not going on a roller coaster ride through all these different emotions. You're just doing that per song. But per song, it's the same structure, so you're not really getting that experience. You're just in a loop. And
it's like a roller coaster that's just going straight the whole time.
You're just that, or you're just going in a circle.
Yeah.
Now, so I think bands that do this more effectively are ones that really accentuate the push-pull aspect of it. So I'm going to use Loathe as an example. You listen to an album like I Let It In and It Took Everything, and they go hard back and forth between the melodic and the hard stuff. Mm-hmm. There are some songs entirely that are just hard balls to the wall. There are some songs entirely that are these beautiful ballads, and then there are some songs that are in between. So doing that makes a more effective experience. And obviously, organizing the songs correctly throughout the album.
Yeah, contour.
You get a more contour and interactive experience rather than just the same thing over and over. So in a vacuum, the songs on this record are good, but when I put them all together, it feels like the same thing over and over and over. So a song like Waiting, it starts off hard, which makes sense as the start of the second half. And then I'm literally writing, okay, what are the odds that it does the same chorus I've heard throughout the whole album? And then and then there it is. And I'm like, of course it is. So, you don't need this anthemic chorus in every single track. So like I said, outside of the repetition, like these songs are really, really cool, but you need to change things up. And I'm not even complaining about the element of it being hard, soft. It's just every song does the harshes in the same spot. They'll do the cleans in the same spot.
Yeah.
Instead, do like a 2-minute barn burner that goes fucking nuts. Make that a single. Get people on board, and then also have a song like later on that's this beautiful ballad, just straight up. And you're gonna, with the range that this band has as writers and performers, you can make a better album experience with better structure, I find. Because everyone plays great, everyone sounds great. I feel like there's a lot that this band's capable of, but why did I listen to this album thinking I feel like I'm listening to the same song over and over? So you look at a song like Found No Throne, that's the ballad, and I like that. Okay, it's just straightforward. The song right after that, Yokai, hits like a truck, and I feel like that one is a great example of what they could be doing with the rest of this record. Because that one is a hard-hitting song, and there are cleans on it, but they're used in tandem with the harshes, and I thought that was kind of interesting. It wasn't just like a sectioned off, this is the hard part, this is the soft part, is that it's kind of consistently hard, but then in the choruses, you got them both at the same time. I think that's pretty cool, and that's more proof that this band has the potential to make these really cool creative choices. I wish they did more of that throughout the rest of the album. And then also, a track like that cleanses the palette so you can go back to the more melodic songs or back to the more hybrid versions.
Right.
So when you have a song that's, one thing or the other, it's a lot easier for you, the listener, to enjoy a hybrid one right after that because of the way that it's changing. And that's I don't know, it was bugging me when I was listening to it, but I feel like I was getting tired of that formula, and maybe on a future listen, without putting it under the microscope, I can enjoy it better, but everyone performed well. I think this band is capable of making really cool stuff. I just felt that this album's a bit repetitive.
Yeah, you know what, that was a mouthful, but
that was a lot.
I can honestly, just listening to you give your feedback there, I can pretty much parrot all of that. I agree with everything you just said. I'm going to abbreviate it in a little bit more of a harsh way, and I'm just going to say I think this was lazy writing. That's basically what it boils down to. Again, I'm not that familiar with this band. I did listen to their last album as well. I think I listened to the album before that as well, which I think is called Cannibals or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I had it saved, but I don't remember listening. Like that one, I wasn't.
Yeah, so I think, and this is a band where I've checked out a few times, and they've never really grabbed me. They've been around for a while. They got a fan base. These guys, as far as this video is concerned, the draw is probably going to be because Bury Tomorrow's in the title of the video.
So sorry.
For the most guys. Yeah, sorry, but I feel like it's very uninspired songwriting. They do a lot of the same things. They're repeating a lot of the same structures. It feels like you hear one song and everything else is filler. And yes, Yokai is an exception. It does do a little bit of different things here. My problem with Yokai is I was really digging it, and I thought the build up to the breakdown was really, really cool. And then the breakdown itself was like, it felt like it was crap. I don't know, it felt like a letdown compared to how the build up was going. If I want to say something nice about the album, I think, like you said, the performances are good. Like the musicianship is okay. Guitar-wise, and you'll probably say this about most metalcore bands anyway, the riffs are good. I mean, that's the biggest takeaway for me, is I can listen to this album, get some good riffs, there's some good energy there, but again, it just feels like lazy writing. It feels like they phoned it in quite early in their creative process, and they're just, writing to write and recording to record and distributing to distribute, and there's no real passion or drive or whatever behind the actual music. That's how it comes across to me. TV Fish feels the same way, so I feel bad for saying things like that, and people that are fans of the band are probably gonna be mad at us, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's got their opinion.
This is how we feel.
But yeah, it did not impress me on a first listen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, to cap it off with I Don't Want to See You in Heaven by the Callous Daoboys.
Callous Daoboys.
Okay, here we go. This album is certainly something. Now, this is a band that I've kind of heard on and off very sparingly over the last, so years, but I never really took a deep dive. And I knew this band is like, yeah, this is like super duper mathy kind of stuff. I was expecting something more along the lines of like Chon or Spangle or something like that. It's not what I got here, and I welcome that. I loved it. I'll just say that. I thought this was a really awesome record. The intro is really interesting because it paints the idea as like you're in a museum, and this album is like this old historic piece lost to time, and that's what you're doing. And I looked into it a bit. The artwork for the singles totally go with that. If you check them out at all,
no,
I just looked at the artwork. It's got the single cover, and then it has like the little placard piece that says what the name of the song is, and like intro, like it's an actual museum piece.
Okay.
So I love that dedication to it. And then they come back to that near the end with a song, like the first one has number 1 in the name. And then number 2, Opt Out, is basically saying, oh, this next one is fucked up, leave now while you can. And I love the vibe and the build up to that into the last song, which is a 12-minute song, country song in reverse. So I guess, we'll get there. But this album, I was expecting super duper math prog, and this is more so like post-hardcore prog. And I really like post-hardcore. That stuff is rad. So, having Schizophrenia Legacy open up, just bam, hit like a semi-truck, just whoa. So it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, so that probably heightened the experience. But I was finding that this, like that song, for example, has some of the stuff I was kind of just complaining about, but it kind of feels less hinged on just that melody, and more so like they kind of constructed it with an open mind rather than like they're totally on a track with this structure. Saxophone is introduced, which is super duper cool. And then just going through the rest of the record, I'm finding just wild moment after wild moment, or holy shit, this one's heavy as hell, or like what the hell are they doing here?
There's a lot of surprises.
There's a lot of surprises. There was a note I made throughout. I said this is like post-hardcore influenced by early 2000s nu metal.
Nu metal?
Like, so think of it like this. You got like post-hardcore influenced by bands like Papa Roach. Do you see the vibe, maybe?
Yeah, you can see that vibe,
You kind of see that, but then also with like that metalcore sheen on it as well.
Yeah, there's definitely metalcore sheen on it. Like, I was hearing a lot of metalcore in this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, you look at a song like Two-Headed Trout, that one's a lot more melodic and hooky, no pun intended. But that one, it makes sense for that to be a single, not only to rope people in, but that's also a good example of kind of the more metalcore influence. But the explosion that I'm talking about, the 180 I'm talking about, is that into Tears on Lambo Leather, being just this boom heavy hitter, and then that gives you that cool back and forth experience, a more interactive album that instead of it being the same kind of cookie cutter thing, you feel that push and pull. And I love that. And there's so much going on. Lemon has this nice groove, and I'm listening to this and I'm like, this is chill. And I'm like, I don't want there to be any crazy change up in this. I want them to just kind of ride that out. And they do. But then there's this sick transition into a bossa nova song called Body Horror for Birds, which I thought was weird to have 2 back-to-back chill ones, but like, I loved the vibe of this. So there's so much push and pull. I was getting even like, there was one song I was thinking like, this is reminding me of Meth Witch even. Like they're going super duper hard. I just feel that they swing around a lot, and I feel like it's not the most accessible album for that reason, because there's a lot of songs that'll just go into random shit, sometimes out of nowhere, which, I accept that kind of stuff because it's like, whoa, and then there's some moments where I'm like, okay, did they really need to do that? But something like Douchebag Safari, these song titles are hilarious. They're fucking wacky. So at the beginning, they're actually like, yeah, no, this is Safari, and then they kind of break the wall down. So I think there's a lot of personality in this album. Even a song like Country Song in Reverse, I love the build of this song and I love the ending, but it did kind of feel like just a more extended version of what I already heard on the record. But I think there's a lot of personality in it. There's a lot of heart and soul poured into this record. There's a lot of twists and turns. I don't think it's the most accessible, considering how much is going on and its sensory overload.
That's the proggy nature of it.
And that is the progressive nature of it.
Yeah.
But I think if you're into progressive music, if you're into post-hardcore, or basically most genres of music, because they probably get covered on this record, then you'll find something in here to enjoy. But I liked it quite a bit. It would be hard to recommend for everyone, but if you're into this kind of thing, you'll love this record.
Yeah, this was a weird one for me. listened to it a couple times, and it definitely took a couple listens for it to start, before I was able to start more appreciating it. But I had kind of a similar feeling to this as I did with the Bury Tomorrow album, and that is that I felt like a lot of the songs were kind of doing the same types of things. Like every song kind of has a hardcore part, then it has a melodic metalcore part, and then it has something weird in there. Then there's the hardcore part, then the melodic metalcore part, then something weird. And each song kind of had those elements. They were kind of arranged differently and done differently, but I kept feeling like, okay, now is the hardcore part. Oh, now is the melodic metalcore part, right? And, you know, I'm referencing and comparing to a lot of bands too. Kubla Khan, Knocked Loose. There was one song that even reminded me of Red Hot Chili Peppers, like just the way it started. I was like, well, this sounds like something from the 90s, like 90s rock. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know, like Chili Peppers maybe? I don't know. That's just kind of where my head went.
That's cool.
And then as far as the metalcore stuff goes, it's not the heavy metalcore stuff like Parkway or As I Lay Dying or Kill Switch. It's the soft metalcore stuff, Coheed and Cambria, Of Mice and Men, Bad Omens, those types of bands that I really just can't get behind.
Bury Tomorrow.
Because they're too soft. Yeah, they're too soft and they're too kind of just a little bit leaning on the pop side of metal. And this is kind of a mixture of those two things, that kind of rough, aggressive, hardcore, in your face, and then this soft, light stuff. And then they sprinkle this weird jazz stuff and this weird Latin stuff and this weird this stuff and this weird that stuff to kind of spice up and make it sound like it's fresh or something. And that's the progressive nature of it. We're just kind of going all over the place. I think if you like those elements and you like them fused together and you don't care that it's switching from this and going to this and doing backflips and all this stuff, I think you would love this album because it kind of just appeals to that kind of, you know, metal brain of, if you like that kind of music. The only song that really stood out to me as one that I was like, wow, this is pretty good, is Tears on Lambeau Leather. The song does have a feature. It's Adam Easterling of Orthodox. He's a vocal feature on this song. I think this song has a bit of a spastic sound. It still maintains that hardcore type of sound. But one interesting thing I noticed first on this song, and then I started realizing that it's on other songs as well, is it has snaps. Like a lot of times you'll hear the clap snare, right? Clap snares in certain songs, right?
Okay.
This had snap rhythm.
Oh.
I don't know I guess you didn't catch it, but it had snaps, and I was like, are those snaps? And there's snaps all throughout the song. Maybe not all throughout, but I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't recall ever hearing snaps in, you know, like a metal song or any song, to be honest. And then I was like, I think I heard these in other songs too. Like, is this something that they like using? Like they're just adding that into the rhythmic section of the song. I thought that was pretty unique. The song ends with a pretty cool kind of, I would call it like a beat down at the end. Like it's not like super throwdown beat down, but it sounded beat down to me. And I thought that was kind of a unique element to have on the album. But yeah, that song was the only song that really stood out to me as anything standout-ish. The rest of the songs, again, they have these cool syncopated things going on. The vocals are fine when they're hardcore. I don't really like them when they're clean. I'm a bit tossed on it. I think there's elements there that I can really get behind, but there's just kind of maybe too much going on and too many creative decisions thrown into the pot to the point where it just feels overloaded. It's almost like making a stew and throwing too many ingredients in, something like that, and you're kind of overwhelmed with flavors where you can't really taste the stew anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I feel the same way with pizza. Like people that put all the toppings on pizza, I'm like, you can't even taste the pizza anymore.
Yeah, it's like not pizza.
What's the point? You're just tasting toppings at this point. So that's kind of how I feel with bands and music like this. I feel like for me to like it, they should tone it down a little bit, but obviously it's just not for me because there's people like TV Fish and probably a lot of you that really do like this kind of stuff, and they like when all the ingredients are thrown in because you really get off on not knowing what's coming next. And you really get off on surprises like, oh my God, they're doing this now? Like, what a wild twist that just happened.
It's like the craziest roller coaster.
It's like
You're
a crazy
going
roller coaster.
everywhere, upside down, backwards, just ridiculous.
And that type of music can really appeal to a lot of people, but it can also turn people off. I'm probably one of the turn people off in that crowd. But I'm also the type of person, if I listen to it a few times and get more familiar with it, things can start to grow on me and I can start to really learn to appreciate it. For an album like this, I think that would be difficult because of the metalcore stuff. That to me just weakens the whole album regardless. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here, so I would still recommend people listen to it. And I'm glad I gave it more than one chance because it definitely grew on me with the second listen.
That's good to hear. Well, we did make the decision that we are going to review Tyrona by No Raza for next week. So we're going to listen to that album over and over and over, give you guys our thoughts next week and our final score for that record. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like this video if you like it. Tell us in the comments below, what do you think of all the albums from today and anything else that dropped today? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Wiles Elf.
We'll see you guys later.